Hello, I'm Donal Macaulay and welcome to this Medics Voices conversation. Today I'm talking to Igor Švab in Slovenia. Igor is the Professor of Medicine, indeed the Dean of the Faculty in the University of Ljubljana. Igor, let me take you back to the very beginning. Tell me about growing up. When did you first have an interest in medicine?
Well, actually, later in life, I always wanted to be as an engineer as my father. But then at the end of secondary school, when I considered um, entering university, I was also thinking of medicine, but I thought that this would be too difficult and the study would be too hard and so on. And I remember that then my mother said to me, actually, you're not deciding the study, you're deciding what are you going to do in life. And if you want to help people, then you should go for medicine. And I took her advice and I was luckily selected as one of the students. I was not one of the best ones, actually.
So then you went to medical school in Ljubljana. Tell us about that, because those were very different times.
Well, I entered medical schools in 1976. And at that time, the study of medicine lasted for 5 years. And there was very little notion of primary care at all. Family medicine was not considered a specialty or a special discipline at all. General practitioners were known to do a lot of hard work, but not of high quality. But when I studied we had a chance to spend, we had to spend 3 weeks in primary care somewhere. So I decided to have an adventure and go to a rural practice where I spent 24 hours a day with a local GP, and that changed my life actually. This is when I decided that this is what I want to do in life. And after 5 years, you were supposed to be fit to practice in general practice, which was quite a challenge.
Well, it was a very difficult political scene at that time. Did that influence medical education?
Not really. Medical science was left out of that. We in Slovenia, former Yugoslavia, we were quite liberal, so it was quite possible to travel abroad. I, as a medical student, had a chance to have my first international exchange to Ireland, to Galway, where I spent 2 weeks. That was not a real problem. Of course, there were some ideological subjects in the study, like sociology and things like that, but that was not really an issue.
Well, general practice was very underdeveloped in Ireland at that time, so that must have been quite an interesting experience.
Well, I had my rotation in internal medicine, so I didn't have a chance to see general practice in Ireland at all. And most of the things I remember are two things. The first, that people in pubs were very friendly, and I was offered quite a lot of Guinness. And secondly, that I bought a Cladach there, which I then gave to my girlfriend at that time, and it worked. So we are still married after more than 40 years.
So let's move on to when you finished medical school. What career direction did you take then?
Well, when I finished medical school, first what you had to do is go to military service for a year. And luckily, since people that finished medical school went to practice medicine in military. And this gave us an opportunity to practice practical skills. After that, I started working in a rural health center immediately in practice, and I enjoyed that tremendously. I enjoyed, especially as a young person, I enjoyed emergency situations, running on home visits, saving people, and having a belief that I made a difference. But then later I got more interested into doing exact clinical practice, doing correct medicine. So I was quite popular as a rural GP. And at the age of 28, I became the director of a health center, which was quite a challenge in that time.
Well, then you had an interest in academia and you did a master's. That was an interesting topic as well.
Yeah, well, the master's was a challenge because the idea came from everyday practice. I was wondering why certain people attend practice practically, very often, and some don't come at all. So I try to find out what is behind the frequent attenders in general practice. And the idea came to me from one of my patients that came to practice 51 times in a year. That means he came regularly every week. And I wanted to find out what was the reason. So I asked him, said, the year has 52 weeks and you came to me 51 times. What was the one week when you didn't attend? And he said, sorry, doctor, I couldn't come because I was not feeling very well. So that made me think about, the reasons for attendance, how people behave and so on. And with this, I had quite a problem in the medical faculty because some of the committee members were not sure whether this is proper science or not. But I had a very good mentor who was a professor of biostatistics, and we convinced them that this is actually also science. And this is something that went on after that. So my idea was to persuade the academia that general practice family medicine can be a scientific discipline as well.
Well, your PhD was very embedded in general practice as well, and it must have been a challenge to the academic folk to think of that topic also.
Well, the PhD was about referrals from general practice. That was at that time I was already involved in EGPRW, which is now EGPRN, and Professor Douglas Fleming from the UK was asking for people that would be willing to coordinate this study in different countries. So myself and my colleague Milica Katic from Zagreb decided to run this study, one in Slovenia, one in Croatia, and this is the basis of the PhD thesis. With this, I had no real problem in defending it as a scientific project.
Tell us about the progress to setting up the Department of Family Medicine.
Oh, that's a long story. In 1980s, the general practice in Slovenia was poor. General practitioners were very depressed. They felt they were neglected, nobody likes them. They were complaining a lot. And at that time, there was a group of my predecessors who said, well, let's stop whining. This is not the correct approach. What we should do is we have to prove to others that we are as good as they are. So we have to develop family medicine general practice as an academic discipline. We have to have a department, we have to have our textbooks, we have to have our research, we have to do our own teaching. So that was the basis of all. And what we did, we started educating ourselves on teaching methods that would be appropriate for this discipline. We went to international courses that were then run in Dubrovnik, in Croatia, where we met people from other countries, Denmark, Spain, UK, and so on. And we saw that this is actually something. So when we came back, there was a reform of studies from 5 to 6 years in all Yugoslavia. And people had, the university, the medical faculty had no idea what to do with this additional year. So we came with a proposal. We said, well, we have this idea that we can introduce family medicine as a discipline. We have and we can offer you a lot of practicing physicians that were willing to do this for free. And this is an offer that no dean could refuse, actually. So, we started talking to each other, and at that time we also pursued academic career. So, because you can't have a department unless you have a teacher. So in 1994 we managed to establish a department of family medicine, and then from there we continued. So when I'm talking to my colleagues from other countries and when they're asking me, we want to establish a department of family medicine, and this is can you give us an advice? And I said, well, yeah, of course, you have to do your research project. You have to do fulfill all the criteria of the academia, and then you'll be successful. There's only one problem. And the problem is that this lasts 10 years, but it is foolproof. And sometimes they accept my advice, sometimes they don't.
Now, you have been very involved in encouraging other people and other nations to develop general practice. So tell us about your international work.
Well, I'm coming from a small country of 2 million people. So if you want to be successful in any discipline, you have to have international contacts. You don't have enough mass of experts in a country, so you have to. Even when I studied medicine, we learned from foreign books. We learned from English, American textbooks. So that comes natural. And so I got involved very early in the international arena with going to meetings, especially not the congresses themselves, but mainly working groups that were interested in research and education. And in 1990s, where Slovenia became an independent, I had the opportunity to represent Slovenia in many international organizations. EGPRN was the first one. Then we joined URAC, then all the other organizations. So that was very helpful. Without that, it would not be possible to be successful at all.
Well, you're involved in those two components of European work, but then you were very involved in WONCA. Tell us about your WONCA involvement.
Yeah, my WONCA involvement was, it started, the turning point was the conference, the WONCA Europe conference in 2003 in Ljubljana, when we organized it after we were successful in applying at the conference of WONCA in Palma de Mallorca in Spain. The conference was quite a big success at that time. We gathered about 1,600 people. Organization was very good, and people were very enthusiastic. So at that time, I was asked by Philip Evans whether I would be willing to become president of WONCA Europe. I accepted, and then I was for 2 terms president of WONCA Europe, which involved a lot of travel, a lot of contacts with people from all over Europe and the world. And I learned quite a lot how to negotiate, how to talk to people, what academic policies are, and so on. It was very important to me.
Well, the academic world continued, and you became the editor of the Slovenian journal. Tell us about that.
Well, I became the editor of the rather obscure Journal of Public Health. That was a house journal of the National Institute of Public Health. It was there were 10 or 12 issues every year, and it had no really credibility. And when they asked me whether I would take on to be an editor, I said, okay, but in that only if you agree on my editorial or the new editorial policy, which would mean that we would reduce the number of issues per year, that we would apply strict criteria of selection criteria. And we went from there. And it took us again 10 years to achieve indexation. We got into MEDLINE, SCI, and now the journal, I'm no longer editor for the last year. I stepped down, it was enough, but now the journal has an impact factor of 2.5, so I'm quite happy with the legacy.
Well, another part of your legacy is that you were involved with many international colleagues in the definition of general practice.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that work.
Well, the definition of the work on the definition of general practice started while I was a member of FURECT, and there was a group of brilliant people there, Justin Allen, Jan Heiermann, and others, who decided that there is time for redefining general practice, writing what general practice is all about. We had a lot of very difficult, thoughtful discussions, and after several years, we produced a definition of general practice that was then accepted by WONCA Europe, and was a basis for many curricula of family medicine throughout Europe. To me, it was very important to be part of this movement, because it made me I could clarify to myself what general practice really is all about, in a way that I can also transfer this idea to the others. When I was talking to my colleagues in especially Southeast Europe and other European countries, I could see that a lot of them are teaching a subject that is called family medicine, but actually doesn't cover the specificities of this discipline. So we went through revising the curricula. So to me, the work on the definition of general practice was very, very important.
It's a great tribute to your work when you think back to where general practice started in Ljubljana, that you're now the Dean of the Faculty. That was a huge step.
Well, that was actually, it was in a way a logical development, because when we introduced the Department of Family Medicine at the Medical Faculty of Ljubljana, we were the best subject at the medical school. Students loved us. It was innovation in teaching, and I was asked to, by the dean at that time, I was asked to make a curriculum reform for the medical faculty. That is something it's a nightmare. It's something that you have to convince a bunch of academics to change their existing way of teaching, and they all think that they're the best teachers in the world. It's like moving the cemetery with the help of its inhabitants. So, but it took us, let us say, 4 years to make a change in the curriculum. And when the curriculum change was accepted, then people saw that this way of teaching is better. And then the term of the dean ended, and I was approached by many to run to become a dean. At that point, I was the vice dean for education because of the curriculum reform. So I was the vice dean running to become a dean, and luckily I got elected. For now, I'm ending my second term, so I'm dean for 8 years practically.
Now, my final question is rather unusual, because we reflect back on your career of high energy, always on the move, always doing things. But your interest and hobby is in slow cooking. Tell us about that.
Oh, I have many hobbies. One of my hobbies, one of my interests is eating and drinking good food, and I like to cook, and I like to take time for that. That's one of my hobbies. Another hobby is going to the mountains, mountaineering. Slovenia is a paradise for that, so I can try to go at least every second week to altitudes over 2,000 meters. I also enjoy running and jogging, which I do practically every second day also. So life is full of other beautiful things. It's not everything is not medicine. I also enjoy watching movies, and this makes my life much so easier and better, because it gives a variety to your everyday routine. It's not just thinking about academic family medicine, but it also gives you ideas for other things.
Igor, thank you very much for talking to us today and for taking us on a tour through your life, your academic work, and your great achievements and contribution to our discipline. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. It was a privilege.